Hello and welcome to today's video where I will teach you how to use ActivityResultLauncher, and this will be a complete application. It's going to be a simple app from A to Z, and of course in Android Studio we're going to try to do it the easy way. Now this is going to be quite a long video. However, I'm trying to go step by step, and this is the application that we will do. We will have two activities, activity 1 and activity 2. In the first activity we have two numbers that the user can input. And then we press the button calculate, which takes us to the second activity. The two numbers which have been inputted by the user are sent to activity 2, where they are displayed, and the user can choose either to add or subtract the numbers. When the user chooses one of these two mathematical operations, the application does the math and sends the result back to activity 1, where it is displayed. So this is the application. Now let's see how we actually code this. You will start by opening Android Studio. You create a new project, phone and tablet, empty activity, and you click next. You can change the name, package name, save location, minimum SDK, and make sure you leave Java as programming language. Then you can press finish. Once the project has loaded completely, the next step will be to add a new activity. So you go under app, Java, you have your package name, then you can just right click, new, activity, empty activity. You can leave the name as it is, you click finish. And once you have both your activities already available, you can start to create the user interface. And for this, let's start with the first activity. You go where it says activity main XML. You can minimize the project view. And over here, you see your first activity, and this is what it contains at this moment in time. And we will repurpose this, but let's take it step by step. First, clear all the constraints. Then you set a margin of 24 dp. I will go a bit fast over some of the things because in previous videos I explained them in detail. And what we need this. This is going to be the first text view, is going to be the title. Then we need two plain texts. This is going to be used for getting the first number and the second number. Then we need another text view. This will be used for displaying the result, and a button that will take us to the second activity. Before modifying anything, I will just set the constraints. And once I've completed this, I will just select all these objects. I will right click and I will center them both horizontally. Why not? And again, I will repeat. This time I will center them vertically. Now they are equally split from a distance point of view. Starting from the top, the first text view, I will rename it to text box title. I will give it the content activity 1. The text size will be 34. And this is it for the first object. Moving to the second, this is going to be an edit text. I say edit box number 1, or just edit box 1. Instead of a name, we delete the content and we'll just search for the hint. And we'll say enter first number. Then I will search for text. And I will choose text alignment, center. So the hint will be displayed in the center of this box. For the input type, I want to change it, and I will say number. Actually, let me just delete the person name because we don't need person name, we only need number. Okay, this will only allow us to type in numbers, so this will eliminate a lot of errors when people will type something else. And the size. For the size, we'll just give it a 24. We will repeat for the second text box. So the second text box or plain text box is configured. Now for the result, this will be a text box result. So for now, I just set the result here, and this will change to result once the reply will be received from the second activity. And lastly, the button. So we gave it the name, btn calculate, the text says button, the size has been increased, and we need the onClick. Of course, we need to refactor. For the onClick, it will be onClick btn calculate. Okay, so this is it for the first activity, and with for its user interface. Going to the second activity, here we need to have a text view for the title, one for the numbers, and we need two buttons, one for adding and one for subtracting. As before, we start by setting the constraints. Okay, now that the items have been equally distanced on the screen, we have to take them one by one and to configure. First one will be text box title. Here we'll say activity 2. For size, we give it 34, like the first activity. And this is it. Going for the second one. Lastly, the two buttons. Let's say for the first button, it will just say add. For size is going to be 24. ID will be descriptive, like btn add. We refactor, and we have to say onClick and give a name for that method. It's going to be onClick btn add. We do the same for the next button. But this time, the user interface is completed for the activity 2 as well. Now let's start coding. So we'll start with activity result launcher. And we have to say intent. We give it a name, whatever you like to give. I say activity launcher. and I say register for activity result. Okay, don't forget to give it some space and commas. Then we have to import this class. And we'll just say new activity result exactly contract start activity for results. This will be the first one, comma. And then we have to give it activity result callback activity result. This is the second one. And we have this method automatically created. But this time we will leave it empty because this is the code that will be executed when we return from activity 2. So when we receive the result from our calculations, this is where we'll process that result. And for now, we have to write the other code, and then we see exactly what variables we have and what we will write. So we'll just move to the onCreate method. What I usually do, I say here onCreate just to make it easier for me to keep track of what's what, and this is going to be the main activity. You don't have to do this. This is just for me, something I do. Okay, so the main activity will stay as it is. What we have to implement is the method for the button that is pressed. So we say public void onClick btn, and it's calculate. View. And let me just double check if I got the name correctly. So in activity 1, the button onClick button calculate. Yes, that's correct. Okay, when we press this button, let me show you again. When we press this button, what we want to do is take the first number, take the second number, and send these two numbers to activity number 2. So in order to get the numbers, first we have to say edit text, and we import this class, and we'll say, let's say edit number 1, and we find view by ID, resource ID, and we get edit box 1. We will repeat for the second edit box, so we just change to number 2. Okay, now we have to check if the values entered in these boxes are valid. I mean, if there's nothing empty over there. So this is how we do it. So what I've done here, I've said that if whatever is entered, because we get the text, whatever is entered into the first edit text box or plain text box, we take that text, we convert it to a string, we check to see if it's equal to nothing. So if this expression is true, it means that nothing is entered over there. Or we do the same check for the second plain text view. So if any of this is true, then obviously we don't have a valid set of numbers entered, then we need to notify the user. And we will just use the toast message to notify the user. So we say toast. And we use the make text, context, and characters. Once this structure only, we say get application context. After that, we give it a text, and we'll say please enter both numbers. And then we have to get a duration, toast dot let's say, a long duration. And we have to show this. So this is how we display a toast message to the user. If you're not familiar with this, I have a dedicated video explaining toast messages. We covered the situation in which we don't have valid entries. But what if we have valid entries? Then we go to else. So this is the code that is executed when both numbers are entered correctly. So we need to convert the strings to integer, and we say one variable So what I've done here, I took the text, I converted to a string, and then it was parsed into an integer, and it ends up in this variable, number 1. And I'll just copy and paste it for number 2. And at this time, I have both numbers saved in these variables. What I need an intent, and I need to send them to the second activity. I just say intent 1. We have a new intent, and we need to pass the context, and we indicate the activity to be opened, main activity 2. We have it here. Here we are. So this is the intent. We have to put the 2 variables inside the intent. So again, I use intent 1. I put extra, and I will select put extra, and this first option, string name and integer value. The string name will be the label or the key associated with this value, and it's going to be the way we find the value in the second activity by using this string name. And I will call it, you can put whatever you want, I will just call it first number. And then I just pass the number. And for the second number, I just copy and paste it. And I'll just change the first number to second number. And number 1, I'll change it to number 2, the variable. And at the end, I just say activity launcher dot launch. And I will just indicate the intent 1. Now, just for clarification purposes, this activity launcher is this one over here. So what's left is just to fill the code that will be executed when we return from activity 2. But until that point, let's just save our work. And we'll go to activity 2. Now in activity 2, just as a reminder, you have the title, you have the 2 numbers that you receive, and you have 2 buttons, one for adding and one for subtracting whatever we received, those 2 numbers. Okay, so let's see what we do in activity 2. We will start by saying we have number 1, number 2, and let's say calculation result. Okay, we have these variables. Then we go to, I'll just write here on create again, on create, and this is from my main activity. So we go inside the onCreate, and we say something like this. Number 1 will equal get intent dot get int extra, because we want to get an integer. And then we have to say which is the key or that label. For the first number, it's first number. And again, just for you to know, you can put whatever value you want here, as long as you use the same value in the main activity where you send the number in the first place. And you put 0. 0 will be just a default value in case nothing is sent. Actually, this is intent. I have a typo. Okay, for the second number, I just copy and paste everything. Only this time is number 2. The key was second number, and the default value, in case nothing is sent, is going to be 0. These numbers we have to display in the text view. So there is a text view. I will just click here and import the class automatically. This is text box numbers, I believe. And this is going to be find view by ID, resource ID, text box numbers. Here we are. Then I say text box numbers, set text. Of course, it's going to be a sequence of characters. And I say numbers. And then I just say plus number 1 plus, and I give it a bit of space. And then I say number 2. And this is everything we have to do inside the onCreate. Now we have to see what happens when the user presses either the add or the subtract buttons. And this is going to be very simple. We say public void, and let's see if I remember correctly. The name I've declared for the method was onClickBTN add for the first button. View. And we have to import this class. I click on it, I say Alt Enter, and it's imported. You can see it over here. Now let's start by calculating the number, the result. So we say calculate result equals number 1 plus number 2. So that's the easy part. Then we say intent, and we say intent, let's call it add. This will be equal to a new intent with this context and main activity dot class. This will be what we open when the user presses the button. Of course, we have to import this as well. So we have the intent add declared, and we have to put inside the result. So we say intent add, put extra, and it's going to be an integer value. Like before, we need to pass a key or a label, and this is going to be from, actually it's a typo here, calculation result. This is going to be my key, and then I'll just pass calc result, the value itself. We also have to set a result to select enter result, it's going to be the result code and the intent. And this is going to be result OK. If you select result OK, this is a constant equal to -1, means that the operation has been completed successful and the result is correct. You can send result cancel. For example, when you press back instead of choosing any button, then the system will automatically send this result cancel. Or you can say something else. And if you say something else, 1, 2, 3, whatever, this is going to be a custom result. But we'll just say result OK for now. And the intent add, the one above. And we have to finish to terminate this activity. And this is for the onClick add. We just copy and modify accordingly for the subtract. So this will be sub for the subtract. The calculation will be number 1 minus number 2. The intent will be sub. We open the same, in the same context, we open the same main activity, only we use the different intent. We send the same calculation result, the same result OK, but this is sub. And we finish. Okay, at this time we have the code completed for this main activity 2. And we can go back in the main activity and finish this part. I mentioned before that this is the part that's going to be executed when we return from this second activity. So what exactly happens here? Let me show you the layout. When we receive the result, we have to say here the result and whatever the result is. And for this, first thing is first, we have to say text view. This is going to be text box result. And we're going to find it by ID. Text box result, here we are. Next, we have to check if whatever we received is valid and correct. And for this, we say if result dot get result code -1, or we can just compare it to result OK. So if we receive a result OK, then we want to execute some code. What we want to do, we want to take the data, the information being sent back, and we have intent data for that. And we say result, get result data. Actually, this is intent. We want to check if this result data is not null, is not nothing. We want to check. We say if data is different from null. So this means that we actually have received something and it's not just a null return. In this case, we have to display the result, and for that we have an integer calculation result. This will be equal to data get int extra. So from the intent, we have to get the value which has been transmitted. Remember, the key that we used was calc result. And we put 0 just in case as a default value. Now that we have the information in this variable, we have to display it inside the text box result. We set the text. And we say result and whatever we have received. Calc result. Now there is one more thing. What if the user doesn't press any button and instead it just presses the back button to return to the main activity? So we say if result dot get result code, if this equals result cancelled, so there was nothing executed. In this instance, what we want to do is just to display inside the same text box. We'll just say nothing selected. And of course, we have to delete this part. Okay, this looks good. So let's save everything and see how it runs. For this, of course, you have to select whichever virtual device you want to use, if you have multiple, and then you press the Run app. The application has loaded. This is the first activity. You can see where it says enter the first number, the second number, the result here, and if we calculate, it will say, please enter both numbers. Let me show you again. Please enter both numbers. I have to enter both numbers. Let's say we enter a 5, and then we enter, I don't know, a 7. So when you press calculate, it takes you to the second activity. It tells you the numbers, 5 and 7, and let's say you want to add the numbers. When I will press add, I will be directed to the first activity with the result. And the result is 12. If, however, I want to press subtract, then the result will be -2. I hope this video has been helpful for you, and until we meet next time, keep practicing, keep learning, and hope to see you in future videos. Until such time, take care and be safe. Thank you for watching.